So let's say you look at a question, right? There are times where we don't know how to start. Explain the reasons for blah, 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 right? How should I start? Or I don't know anything. So we can always start with a definition. So definition is your insurance. Let's say I don't know anything about the answer, right? Let's say, for example, the question asks us, explain the key drivers of globalization. Okay, now the answers, of course, is from here, okay? But let's say now we don't know the point, or we studied this on the first lecture, and then we have forgotten everything already. So how? So what do we do? Is there any way to get anything? So of course, we can give our own reason. Second thing is, let's say I really don't know anything, I can still highlight this term, and then I can just give the definition over here. At least we get 1 mark. So just this is about the exam structure. Huh? So we can start with the definition of globalization. So we say, first of all, we have the increasing connection and interdependence of the world's markets, cultures, populations. So the world is becoming very integrated, it's all connected. And if you prefer, let's say, another definition, we can, okay, give me a while. Let me go back to the file. Okay, so this one and the study guide go hand in hand. If you prefer like this write-up, feel free to look at this. If you prefer all in point form, this one in point form and just some cute nice pictures, then feel free to look at this as well. Okay, so you have two things to look at. So here they define globalization a bit differently. They say the process of international integration from the interchange of worldviews, products, ideas, other aspects of culture. So if you prefer to use this, then go ahead as well. Okay, so as long as it's correct, it makes sense, then okay, there's no one way to define. So we say that everything is becoming more interconnected. So the first thing to look at, why? Why is it like that? So first point, yes, raise hand. Okay, those are attendance. I'll check with you guys later. I thought a lot of questions, but everyone giving me the names. Okay. Okay. So now, first of all, we have technological advancements where we can use the technology to do transactions across borders, right? Remember COVID? So COVID was an example where people, let's say at that time, I was already teaching for many years, right? And then, okay, but if you ask me, I'm still 20 years old. Okay, because morning they talk about age. So I was already teaching for many years, and then COVID started with a little bit of spread, right? So it was like, oh, in this place, in that place. So we didn't expect it to be so serious to have the shutdowns for many months, right? Then subsequently, they started to impose all that measures. We cannot go out, we cannot go shopping. And then everything went online, I remember. And at the time, my colleague was telling me this thing called Zoom. Now it's nothing foreign, right? Because we are very familiar with Zoom. We've used it so many times. But at that time, to me, this was something very new. Like, wow, you can actually teach online. You can share files, you can chat, and it's all like instantaneous. Okay, I feel very old now. Okay, but yeah, this was a new software. So that's one example. Second thing, of course, are things like e-commerce, right? You all bought things online during COVID? Have? Don't have. My house, like every day got new delivery. My mom was buying things, my wife was buying things. Every day someone knocking on the door. Hey, today is this, tomorrow is that. Like, hey, do we need so many things? Right? It's all online. So then this is one reason because of the technological advancements, right? Because of all this IT equipment, software, hardware, we can actually buy from overseas, do transactions overseas, right? Learn from overseas, teach from overseas. So this will be one reason for globalization. Okay, second reason, because of trade liberalization, right? We have free trade. So there's no restriction between this country and other countries' trade. So we call this free trade. Any examples of countries with free trade or they promote free trade?
China.
Okay. That's all. Okay, so to some extent, every country probably is, right? So the next thing is, how much do you depend on trade?
I guess
The what, sorry?
amount of export.
The amount of export. Okay, so if you earn more, then you probably will export more, right? Then you want free trade. Okay. So give me a while. So let's say we look at the case of Singapore?
It was like big, especially like marketing and things more.
Okay, give me see if I can find this. Okay, if there's nothing to show you, then you look at my face. Okay. Okay, all right, this one could do. Then I'll just pause here. Now, if you look at the structure of Singapore's economy, the composition, all right, I scroll out a bit. So this represents countries, represent the biggest trade partners of Singapore, right? The top 6 trading partners. We have countries like China, US, Malaysia, etc. Right? But beyond this, if you look at Singapore's GDP, right, gross domestic product. So the key component of Singapore's economic growth, GDP, where does it come from?
Globalization, digital.
Okay, that could be production. Then do we buy it ourselves or do we sell it overseas? Overseas. So now broadly, let's say we look at the composition of GDP. So this one extra. Okay. So we say that for GDP or economic growth, this can come from things like consumption. Then we have investment spending, government spending, and also the net exports. Okay. So economic growth comes from 4. You guys remember, right? Yeah, I just remember. Okay. No, some of them took econs last semester. Okay, so economic growth comes from 4 areas mainly. Consumption spending, this will be by the consumers. So let's say today I go for an haircut, right? I contribute to the country's consumption spending. Investment spending is by firms. The companies buy machines. So today, Dyson, right, they set up a new factory. This is considered investment spending. Government spending is by the government. They spend money to buy things, to build things. So the government can spend on the teacher's salary. So let's say I work in Singapore's public school. So they pay my salary. I produce the teaching service to the students, right? So that is government spending on my service. Alternatively, they can build a new airport. They can build a new highway. So that is also spending to build something. Last part is the net exports. So net exports will be buying from overseas and selling to overseas. So when you sell, it is exporting, you are earning money. All right. Now, yes.
In what countries?
Okay, let me give you here. Okay. So now, the 4 components are not all equal because different country has different nature. Singapore's case, no natural resources, very small, only have people, right? And the people is also aging. Okay. So what do we have? What can we offer? Consumption spending is very little because people don't spend. Also, Asian country, they like to save. Firms can come in, right? But there's only so many firms. If you contrast with, let's say, US, China, so big, so many firms, right? Investment spending also limited. Government spending also limited. If it's not emergency, not like COVID, the government doesn't spend aggressively because they are very careful. So how? People don't spend, not enough firms, government don't spend. So where does our money come from? Exporting. So our main source of revenue and also economic growth is from exporting. So in fact, exporting is 200% of GDP, 2 to 300% of GDP. Okay, of course, you minus away imports, then we get the net exports. All right, so this one here, done. Okay, net exports, this will be exports minus imports, right? So that will give us the net exports. So in Singapore's case, because you rely so much on this, you cannot kill yourself. Of course, we will promote free trade. So we will go after different partners and say, hey, let's collaborate, let's sign a contract, let's promote free trade because we want to trade more for survival. Okay, now let's contrast with another economy type. We look at the case of US. Okay, then let me search for US. So US consumption spend. Yes, this one. So very interestingly, US 67 or about 2/3 of the economy is generated by consumption spending. That means without trading with other countries, the people already drive 2/3 of the economic growth. And this is still happening. This is as of June 2024, very, very recent. So then in this case, and if you backtrack to Donald Trump's presidency period, right, which may happen again depending on the election results, you would remember that he has certain policies in place, particularly with China. Remember? Read the news. Okay, so the period was around 2018, 2019. That was when Donald Trump was the previous president, right? And he accused China of actually selling too much to them and not buying enough from them. So therefore, China was profiting from US, as what he said, and US was in a loss in terms of net exports with China. So what happened? Because he's not happy, he started to impose tariffs. Okay, so tariffs is there. Yeah, this one. Okay, let me zoom in here. Okay, so you see this word, the tariffs. Okay, this one where the mouse is. So the word tariff. Tariffs is a tax. That means when China sells to US, the firms have to pay extra taxes now. For what? For selling to US. So if you sell to Singapore, do we have this tax? Don't have. But if you sell to US, have. So what is the purpose of the tariff?
Like the Singapore business get better the government to make some tariffs for the
Wow, okay. Okay. So tariff could be to protect your own firms because the foreign firms are too cheap. So when they sell into your country, no one buys from your company, your local company, because it's too expensive, right? So it could impose the tariff. But at a simpler level, this one very deep analysis, but at a simpler level, we just want to discourage the imports. I tax you, that means I don't want you to do this.
have some power, have a stable economic system.
Okay.
China always trying to expand the circular power of other countries, and they like showing the kind of because recently the over with the Saudi River, was like it doesn't work right now for like you can't buy oil for US dollar right now. That's why rigs are they do like a good job and
Okay, thank you. All right, so yeah, what was I going to say now? Okay, so anyway, tariffs, this one would be against the trade liberalization, right? It goes against, we are trying to reduce exports and imports. Okay, so depending on your purpose, depending on the nature of the economy, right, you could have a different outcome. Okay, so this, whether you have or don't have, right, at the what we are saying here, whether you have or don't have, it could affect a lot of things. But with trade liberalization, you are promoting trade, you are promoting globalization. So we are still trying to push for globalization. All right, next one, foreign direct investment. So FDI, it will be the firms investing in a foreign country. So the firms are investing in a foreign country. So like if you know Dyson, right? Dyson from the UK. So they set up Singapore headquarters. So they come over, they set up. This will be considered as FDI because they are investing, they are buying the factories, the equipments, capital goods in that foreign country to set up, to produce, to operate. Okay, so they can open new markets, they can reduce production costs. So FDI is one thing. Now to follow on with the previous example, right, let's say you talk about the trade war. Just now, we mentioned the trade war, right, and link it to trade liberalization. There's also another aspect, which is that because of the trade war, it also affected FDI. Okay, previously, a lot of countries produced in China. But now once it is produced, when you sell to US, it is subjected to tariffs, taxes. So what did they actually do? What did they actually do? So no choice, because when you produce in that country, probably you want lower cost. You want access to certain resources, right? But if the cost is now higher due to the tariffs, then we have to ship. Just like very straightforward. Today, the rental here is too expensive. Then we will close the Tanjong Pagar one. We will shift to Jurong, for example. So then it's for cheaper. So let's say here we have the countries relocating, no, not countries, companies, let's say Vietnam. Okay, so this, okay, I'll paste here, right? So you can use, okay? So we may need real world examples for the exams, okay? So just to also remind her before I forget. So the real examples will come, it may come here in the notes. You may use your own ones, but please read around so that you have something to write, okay? Don't just use all my examples in the exams, okay? Copyright, huh? So read yourself, find the different information, you can use it in your answers. So here, this was one outcome. Because of the trade war, right? You have companies shifting to other countries. Okay, so like popular destinations were like Vietnam, Mexico, etc. You can read around. So with that, okay, coming back. Okay, so with that, it has prompted them to relocate, to invest elsewhere. But at the same time, right, the debate was some companies also decided to shift back to your own country. Okay, so we have offshoring, which is going overseas, and then reshoring, coming back. You understand what I'm saying? Huh? So because of the trade war, you feel that, or we felt that we were very much affected by global events. So then as a result, is it possible that we shift our production back to our own company, our own country, and reduce such volatility? Okay, so this was also one of the debates happening during that trade war period. This was before COVID. All right. Okay, next one. Economic policies and deregulation. So countries with the pro-market policies encouraging the companies to come in and set up. So one aspect that we can mention would be the corporate tax, for example. Okay, so if you have a favorable corporate tax, then it can invite companies to come in and set up. And okay, so let's say Singapore's corporate tax. All right, you may want to remember some of the numbers also. So Singapore's corporate tax, this is at 17%. All right, it's relatively low. You can search around for different countries. Let's say we go with Saudi Arabia. Okay, so you can search around, use different examples. Right? So we can contrast the numbers. Generally, if you have a lower tax, it will be more pro-business because they like it, right? Today you earn $5, your salary. Okay, let's say you earn 5,000 per month, right? Will you like it if I just tell you give me 2,000? No, but the government is doing that. Zero? Okay, let's see.
Investors.
Quite cheap.
Like the science.
Okay, actually very good. Yeah, 9%. Okay, you guys took down the numbers, huh? So you can use for your answers. Okay, I go on. I move back to the screen. Okay. Okay, all recorded, all right? In case you miss out, all recorded also. Okay, then the other thing is through cultural exchange. So not so much about money, although this one also involves money. If you look at the above, it's more like trade, then make money, invest, and so on, do business. Cultural exchange would be like consuming something, being exposed to something that people like, and it creates a hype. Okay, so it could be, for example, simple things like K-pop. K-pop. Oh, no one excited. BTS. No one. Blackpink? No, no, no. To nothing. Taylor Swift. Okay, yeah, a bit more exposed. Okay, so cultural exchange, yeah, exposed to different pop culture, right? It could be a physical, tangible product. Let's say, I don't know, I'm too old.
Now what relaxing is just
Jazz or okay. Okay, different lah. Okay, different with interest. If you are on social media and you see this on social media, Instagram, TikTok, have right? Singapore just opened a branch. Wow, so excited. Yes.
really not.
Okay, okay. So if you've been to Malaysia, Malaysia, okay. Malaysia, if I'm not wrong, this one has a shop in many shopping malls, right? Then you can buy quite cheaply. Singapore's pricing, I'm not sure. I haven't bought from here. I'm very slow. Okay, I only started seeing like the celebrities and whoever posting on social media, right? 1, 2 weeks after it opened. Everyone's going there, buy and then like TikTok, whatever. So then I was still not aware where the shop is. Until last week, I was at Plaza Singapura. Then I walked past. Then I realized it's here. Then the second thing that shocked me was, it was I think Friday or Thursday afternoon. It's like no one is working because like a long queue outside. Then you realize, hey, everyone's doing so well, like there's no need to work. You can spend the afternoon just buying bubble tea. Okay. So yeah, so this one will be like the cultural exchange, right? So it can come, a product comes from overseas and then launch in other countries. It can be the soft intangible type, like the songs, the artists, etc. Okay. So for this, it can ask on essays, it can ask on short answer. So every time we look at the content, if you see that that portion has a lot of points, that one pay more attention because because the short answer and also the essays will ask from here. Because if we ask you to write 4 points, 20 marks, 10 marks, then there must be something to write, right? We cannot ask you define globalization, 20 marks. Doesn't work like that, right? So you have to look at all this with a lot of content, then these are possible essay questions. The tricky type will ask you about a specific detail. So it's not like a big content point, but a specific detail. For example, globalization refers to the increasing, then this word goes missing, and they ask you to fill in the blank. It could be like that, right? Because it's only 2 marks. So they give you 4 choices. It could be this one, right? It could be the increasing growth of the world's market, increasing development of the world's market, increasing speed. So any 3 other words. Then we choose the correct one for the answer. Okay, so giving you all the secrets already, huh? So you should do very well for your exam. Okay, then you also know how, right? Which is to do very well for your assignment. Then you will pull up the score. Okay. Yes. Have. Okay. Must remind me. Otherwise I'll forget. Okay. Then let's move on. All right. So we talk about the reasons. These are the key drivers, the reasons I'll highlight here. Then the next part, we look at the different forms. Okay. So the different types. How does it manifest? So it could be, let's say, economic globalization. That means, you can see here, integration of the economies into a global economy. So we mentioned one aspect, which is that we buy, sell from overseas, right? I can buy something from Amazon, then Amazon will deliver over to me, and they could be based in US. So the item is in US, ship over to Singapore. So that's one example. Second example, let's say we talk about the stock market. I can buy Tesla shares. I can buy Hong Kong shares, right, as a Singaporean. So I open the account, then I can trade all these instruments from Singapore, and this is across borders, right? Because I'm buying and even trading with the foreign traders. So this is another example of the economic globalization. So all these unique examples are. Then, of course, if you broaden the definition, we talk about the global supply chains, things like the suppliers also overseas, the sellers overseas, everything overseas before it gets delivered to us. So all these are examples of economic globalization. Cultural globalization, we look at the exchange of ideas across the world, right? So this will be like, again, what we mentioned just now. Taylor Swift comes to Singapore, right? And then people from all over the world fly to Singapore. Maybe not all over the world, near Southeast Asia, because there's only one stop. So people from, I remember seeing the news, people from Korea, Philippines, Malaysia, Thailand, all coming to Singapore, right? Suddenly everyone's here just for Taylor Swift. So that will be example of the cultural globalization. Next one, we have political. Political would be that they are connected through the different organizations. Okay, so apart from this, we can raise the example of WHO as well. If you remember, right, previously when COVID first started, right, everyone was doing their own efforts, right, what to do. Then subsequently, WHO said that this is now a pandemic, right? And then they can issue certain guidelines to help. Okay, I give you the example. So let's say here, WHO COVID pandemic. Okay, so here, 2023, they declared the end as a global health emergency, right? So it's like everyone's united under this organization in terms of that disease. Then recently, you have the monkeypox as well, right? Okay, hopefully it doesn't get so bad. At least let us go overseas first. and go holiday first, then okay. Then technological globalization, where the technology is available to be used across the world. Okay. Like let's say now you are searching the internet, right? And the information is from all over the world. And then subsequently, AI, right? You know AI, right? Any useful tools that you are using? Okay, so you know lah. I'm not telling you a secret. So you know about ChatGPT, right? So ChatGPT also allows anyone around the world to use. Okay, and can use for a variety of reasons, right? Including helping your scores get better. So use the tools. Okay, so tech. All right. So these are the different forms of globalization that can take place. Okay, so just to recap, we have gone through the key drivers or the key reasons. This one, let me just bracket, okay? Make it clearer. So reasons for globalization. We have tech, trade liberalization, FDIs, policies, cultural exchange. That's one. Second one, we look at the different forms. Forms, this one will be like types. Okay, so the different types of globalization. So economic, cultural, political, technological. The question could ask us to list and explain the different types. It could ask you to give examples. It could go in depth into any one or two and ask us to explain more using examples. So the questions can ask in different ways. But because this has a lot of content, please don't skip and forget about it. All right, because the more content, the easier to ask for essays and short answer questions. So next portion here to do with the impact. Now impact here I would say is quite if I use easy, then like probably you wouldn't believe anyway, right? So this one you can still come up with something yourself, okay? So in terms of impact, we can say that the market has expanded. It allows us to sell things and also to even, okay, give me a while, huh? So even is to sell and to buy things from overseas. Okay, to sell things, to buy things from overseas with globalization. So if you are aware of Amazon, that we mentioned previously, Amazon is a platform that allows people to also sell items. And this business model was doing very well during COVID. Now it has died down a bit, right? But if it's like 4 years ago, or even at the start of COVID, 4.5 years ago, if you are selling things on Amazon, you probably earn quite a bit of money, quite a lot of money. Okay, so I interrupt for a while. Let me give you the example. So let's say today, me as a person, right? I'm sick of working. Okay, I don't want to work. I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay at home, but I still need money, right? So I can go to Alibaba, which is a supplier website. Okay, so I go to Alibaba and you can see what you want to buy. You are now the seller. You are now the firm, the company. Let's say I want to sell, you see, even body armor also have. So let's say I want to sell a dress, for example. Okay, you realize that this one is, all these actually they can sell very cheaply, right? So let's say I like this dress, the girl's dress, it looks very nice, and it's going for about $5 US dollars per piece. Okay, depending on how many pieces you order. So if you order up to 4,999, they will charge you 5.3. If you order beyond 5,000, they charge you 5.26. Okay, I can order a sample delivered to my house. Of course I can't wear, right? I can touch it, feel how it is. Is the material soft, comfortable? I think that that's okay, nothing to modify. Then I can place my order. But suppose you want to make changes because cannot be everyone selling the same white dress, right? Or the same design. I can change to a pink one, a red dress. I can change the designs here. I design something myself. So we ask if the supplier is okay to make such changes. If they say it's okay, they print your logo, they print your designs. Then once it is done, you place your orders for let's say 1,000, 2,000 pieces. That's about 5,000 US dollar, 10,000 US dollars. Then you will finish the production. Okay, so it is produced in China. Once it is done, we'll contact our shipper. So the shipper could also be from China. So once you have this, then you will deliver over to Amazon's warehouse. So Amazon's warehouse, or they call this the fulfillment center, this was, you see here, okay, this one quite recent. Okay, so quite recent, you have, this was in April. This was in April this year, right? They were building a new warehouse or new fulfillment center. Okay, so every few months, every so often, they will build a new fulfillment center. So within this fulfillment center itself, let's see if there's more pictures. Okay, yes, nice. Okay, so the workers are working, the machineries, everything will be in place, and the products shipped from China will send over. Okay, so this is not for us to do manually, we just need to arrange, right? So we already involved China and now US. So with that, I can start selling my items on Amazon. So while they are sending over, you need to prepare your listing, right? So the listing could be, okay, Amazon.com. What is this? Rest. You see? So very similar items, right? So let's say I'm selling all this. Then I need to prepare the pictures. I need to prepare the descriptions. The pictures, get the model. Where I need the descriptions, the features, the occasion, etc. All these things have to be prepared. Now you have ChatGPT, this one should be easier, right? But you still need to give it clear instructions. Then the images, are you going to generate using AI? The supplier can also give you the standard, right? The prototype or kind of photos, but probably you won't use. You need something nice, right? You could get a model, do all these poses, and then you may want to buy. And then after that, all this setup, you can start selling. Okay, so this is an example, right? Because with globalization, it says that you can sell to different countries, you can increase your customer base, your revenue. So through the technology, you are able to be in Singapore, talk to the Chinese suppliers, sell through Amazon in US, all over the world. Okay, so this could be one example of globalization. But of course, if you don't want this a bit more newer business model, then you can look at things like all these brands, Apple, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, all this we can consume anywhere, right? So it's already an example of globalization. So they set up, they sell in different countries. Next one, we talk about the cost efficiencies. So from the production side, if you are producing and now different countries are available, you will want to source for the cheapest resources. It could be production cost, it could be labor cost, machinery cost, any cost, natural resources cost. We could want to find, let's say here, right? Let's say outsourcing. They look for countries like India, Philippines for customer support, IT management. Okay, show you the another example, huh? If you have heard of this website called the Fiverr, if you want some income, you can also list yourself here. All right, see what you can provide. So let's say I want to look for a virtual assistant. I want to sign in. Okay, let's try again. All right, virtual assistant. Okay, here. Right. So you can actually list and you can see that the prices depend. It depends on who you engage, or who you are interested, and also probably the country as well. Was a few years ago, I was trying to play with YouTube. So my IT skills are like negative. Okay, it's really negative. So at that time, I wanted to try a YouTube channel. So then the recording is still okay. You just need to be brave enough, talk to the phone, right? And then accept that your videos are out there. But after you record, you need to edit the videos, right? You cannot just upload the raw ones. And I didn't know how to edit. So I went online here, same website, to find a video editor. The prices vary a lot. So if you look at an editor from, I think it was from Canada, he was charging about $250 for one video. Around about 10 minutes worth, the raw footage. So he could edit into, let's say, a bit shorter, right? It's very expensive. Like 4 videos, $1,000. And you haven't even earned a single cent from YouTube yet, right? So that's not going to happen. So I searched around, then I found one in Singapore. Then he was charging $50 per video. So the cost got greatly reduced, right? So that one more manageable. And because it's Singapore, so we don't have to go through this portal, then I can just text him and so on. So easier. All right, so you can see like the cost is an issue because one factor will be like which country you come from, right? Canada probably standard of living is higher. So to them, 250 is like, oh, that's okay, right? Very cheap. But maybe to us, like, oh crap, not going to happen. $50 can. Okay, but if you want even cheaper, then maybe you have to see like different other countries. Okay, then now because even more cheapskate occur along the year, so no choice. And to like source around, then where to find. So I can do a bit of editing myself now, so can save all the money. Even more like cheapskate over the years. Okay, so yeah. So again, back to this is for cost efficiency to reduce cost. Just now, with the case of countries shifting to like Vietnam, Mexico, also to save money because when you sell from China into US, it is more expensive because of the tariffs, because of the war. All right. So this is one reason, or this is one impact. It could be a reason, it could be an impact. All right. If you think of it as an impact, that means after you globalize, then you can want to shift different countries to produce cheaply, and you get it. Questions? Questions? No. Okay. Remember all the examples, huh? You mentioned like about 3 to 5 at least, right? Ready for exams? Okay. Number 3, global supply chain. All right. So supply chain will involve the whole process from sourcing all the way to transport, all the way to delivery of the product. Okay. The example that we can use back would be the same thing, Amazon. All right. So in Amazon's case, same thing. We can buy the products from China, then ask them to do the fulfillment. So fulfillment means you are not the one delivering to the customer. You are not the one going to answer the customer's queries because sometimes they complain. Sometimes they want to refund. But you as the seller using Amazon services, they do all this for you. So your job is to look for the products, buy the products, send to Amazon, finish. Of course, do the listing, right? This one, the listing, we have to prepare ourselves. The photos, the description, the titles, all that we do. Okay, so it's quite fast-free in that sense. Okay, so global supply chain, you can talk about the example of Amazon. Similarly, because here it is about outsourcing as well to some extent, even for Amazon, they don't do everything themselves. Okay, yeah, done now. Let me give you another example. So Amazon outsource. Okay, so as of 2023 last year, so about 1.5 years ago, right, you can see that they pull back. They pull back from UPS as it builds out the logistics empire. So Amazon, even up to last year, as big as it was still using UPS to do the delivery. So it doesn't mean that it was doing everything itself. It could still use UPS because UPS has some cost advantage. So the core business of UPS is to do delivery, right? So they have a lot of drivers, vehicles, the transportation arrangement. So to certain areas, actually, Amazon is still using UPS. It's not totally don't have. Some areas. So in certain rural areas in US, Amazon doesn't have the whole system, the whole infrastructure set up. But they still need to serve the customers there. You cannot say, oh, because you stay in this village, then we don't sell you. Too bad. Haha. No, right? So we sell everyone. So we must find a way to send over, and they do so using UPS. Okay, so your core advantage will be the main activity you do. So we have this term called the economies of scale. Okay, I just type here. Okay, so we have economies of scale. This one would be okay. So the more we produce, the cheaper it gets to a certain extent. Okay, the more we produce, the cheaper it gets. So for example, now we are already making this trip. I'm already sending the parcels to this place, right? So this vehicle, this lorry, this truck is already going, let's say later. If I ask them to deliver my item, is it going to be very expensive for them? No, right? They are already going that trip. So they could charge you a lower price. But if you are purposely going for that one item, then it becomes very expensive, right? Because you are purposely making that trip. So because they have expertise, they spread the network to different parts of the world, then they can achieve economies of scale. So they are transporting in large volume. The cost or the average cost becomes lower. So every trip they make, every delivery they do becomes cheaper. Because this trip, I can send out 100 items, right? So the worker is maximized. Then this trip, you can send 100 items. Quite worthwhile. Compared to making one trip, we only give this one person, then we go back, right? That one not worthwhile, too expensive. So this could be the case of global supply chains as well. Next one to do with the knowledge transfer. So if we have globalization, then it allows companies to collaborate. And then also you have the technology, the information. Okay, here, this one. Okay, so it can be transferred across different countries, different regions. What was it? Yeah, okay. Let's say, for example, if you know like universities, right? They like to invite the professors, the academics from different countries to come here for conferences. So that could be one example because you have people from different countries collaborating. Right? So we share ideas. It could be virtual or via Zoom. It could be face-to-face. They fly down. They can share ideas. So beyond that, it could be like you get the foreign lecturer to fly in and then they teach to that class. So they bring experience, knowledge from their country with the students. So this could be the example of your innovation and knowledge transfer. Question so far? Not too much for today, right? All too easy? Okay. Then sadly, we have intensified competition. Okay, the last point for this part. No, we have the last 2 points. So this will increase the competition level as well. Okay, so on one side, if you have free trade, if you have no trade restrictions, it is going to increase competition. So in Singapore's case, right, this could be an example. Okay, could be a point in case because Singapore doesn't practice any trade restrictions. They don't say, oh, we don't buy from country A, country B. Don't have. We buy, sell with everyone. Everyone is our friend, right? Because we are small. So then, if you are buying, selling from different countries, and your people have now got access to all the different products around the world, then are they still going to buy your local brands? Let's say, if you ask me, right? Let's say I grew up here and now that I'm 20 years old, okay, no one responded. Okay, so let's say if you talk about beauty products, right? Remember a few years back, I used to go Korea like almost every year before COVID. So every time we go there, we stock out on the beauty products, the face mask, the toner, all that, right? So it's always buying from Korea because like you go, if you are familiar with that place, right, Myeongdong, every time you go there and then like, yay, you just walk a few steps, people pull you already. Let's go into the shop, right? And then a lot of samples. I don't know, still have. The last time I went was 2018, right? Haven't been there so far. Every time like they give you samples, you buy all this. So we always go back with the whole luggage full. Yeah, but I never buy from Singapore. So like the same brand could be like Face Shop, what else? Face Shop. Sorry. Yes. Okay, yeah, all these brands, right? So I will buy there. Then later on, you realize that actually the cost has now reduced, right? You can buy online for about the same price or cheaper. But anyway, the experience was to go in, talk to the people, try there, and then overseas you are very relaxed, right? Everything also buy. Here is like ask you to buy one thing, it's like don't want lah, don't want buy. Right? Overseas, everything can. So with that, I wouldn't be buying from the Singapore firms. Right? I'll be buying from the Korean firms. Or let's say I go to Bangkok, I'll buy a lot of t-shirts, they're quite cheap. Then the elephant pants. But I don't buy shirts from Singapore. Right? I could go to Malaysia for a haircut or groceries, right? For a lot of things. So I don't buy from Singapore. So again, it's very competitive because you're competing with everyone now. So at the same time, the firms have more customers. They also face more competition. Okay, so the more need to be very competitive to improve on your strategy. All right. Next one, the cultural and the ethical challenges. This one here would be in terms of things like let's say ethical challenges. Let's say for iPhones, right? They produce the phone, they need certain like those metallic resources like copper, nickel, and so on. They could source from a supplier and the supplier uses child labor. Okay, let me see if I can find this one. Okay, if you watch the video, you'll be quite it won't be nice. Let me see. Not this lah. Okay, these are the people. Yeah, this one. Want to watch? Okay, then we rest a while.
Filmed by Sky News. Cobalt is one of 40 minerals that end up in smartphones.
It's like that. Yeah, it's cobalt.
Part of a bewilderingly complex global supply chain, from suppliers to smelters to factories, assembly lines. Finally, it ends up in our own hands. The clean, blank modernity of the digital revolution erases its grim origins.
What they need to be doing and companies should be doing is engaging with their suppliers to improve the conditions at the mine site, to remove children from the mines, so that mining really can be a source of growth and jobs instead of insecurity and child labor.
These are called artisanal mines, and they provide a livelihood to about a fifth of the population in the DRC, but they're also open to abuse. Sky News filmed children as young as 4 working in appalling conditions. The cobalt they mined ended up being bought by a Chinese cobalt mining company called Huayu CDM. Huayu told us they had immediate plans for improving the situation, but we asked them 3 times if they would apologize for using child labor. But just so Huayu isn't sorry.
I don't want to say in that way. You understand? We are proud of our work in DRC. And the local guys also, we have a very good reputation. And also, Sky News, you are more than welcome to tell us what we should do to help to improve this situation.
Cobalt is mainly used for batteries in smartphones, laptops, and electric cars. Some of Huayu's cobalt went to third-party battery makers. Their batteries ended up in Apple's products. Apple told me they've now instructed Huayu to stop sourcing cobalt from artisanal mines until they can be verified. They also said the company has also launched initiatives on the ground with NGOs like PACT, more than a lot of tech and auto companies bother with. Most just rely on questionnaires and surveys filled out by their own suppliers. Tesla, BMW, Renault, Samsung, and Dell all told us that, as far as they knew, no cobalt from Huayu entered their supply chains. The average smartphone has around 10 grams of cobalt. Let's call that a teaspoon's worth. Now, laptop batteries have more, around 3 times as much, 30 grams. So we'll call that a tablespoon there. When it comes to electric car batteries, we're not talking spoons, talking buckets, around 10 kilograms per battery. That means a lot more cobalt mined as more electric cars are sold. This may look like a AA battery, but it's the sort of fuel cell you'll find in an electric vehicle. Researchers here in University College London are stripping it down to measure how much cobalt it contains.
Companies and universities like ours are trying to reduce the amount of cobalt that's being used in these different battery chemistries. But in the near future, we can expect there's going to be a significant amount of cobalt demand to service the lithium-ion battery market as it continues to grow with the growth of the electric vehicle market.
The smartphone revolution is already 10 years old. The devices we now delight in are impossibly sleek and powerful. But the brutal conditions that make them possible still seem like the relic of another age. Tom Cheshire, Sky News.
Okay, so a bit scary. This one here, the context is the kids are very young. Okay, these cute things, right? So 4 years old, 5 years old, they are not studying, they are not staying at home playing, they are already working. Okay, and this condition is not very ideal because if you stay there, you inhale all the toxic gases and so on, it will lead to like the body conditions, right? And any point in time, this mine can collapse. Then they will just die. And they go through this whole thing very early in the morning till very late evening or at night for $1. Will you do it? Right? But they have to do it, no choice. Right? So then they are mining cobalt, which is a mineral resource, and it is ultimately used in the production of Apple. Okay? So first thing, globalization, they are using the materials from places like Congo. And these items are produced in China, US, assembled, and then sold to people around the world, right? So it's showing globalization. Second of all, it brings about the issue of ethics. So is this going to affect the business? Is this something to look at? As we are more, as we are sourcing for different places to get your minerals from, your resources from, we may also make use of very cheap labor. As in this case, there must be certain reasons why the kids are working. And then also, we are just paying them $1 a day. right? If this happens in Singapore, you wouldn't let it happen to your children, right? So what is the reason why that even happened in Hong Kong? It could be that the family is not doing well, the families are not doing well, the country is not doing well. And then rather than letting the child just do nothing, they can't go to school anyway, can't afford, then might as well get them to work. $1 could be a lot to them, right? You could buy some food for them so they don't have to starve. So in that case, it will cause this issue to come about. Okay, so ethical issues are okay. For this, you can link to let me see the UN. Okay, so the United Nations, they came up with this new 17 goals. I think it was refreshed around 2015, 2016. Okay, so they have these few targets to reach. So things like, for example, no poverty, end poverty everywhere. Things like zero hunger, clean water, and then things like sustainable cities, reduce inequalities, and then climate change, life below water, etc. So these goals, right, to do with a sustainable climate, sustainable world, you can link this to the cultural and ethical challenges. Okay, so if you want, you can use those as examples, right? So for this, the challenges could come not just from the child labor. It could also be about climate change. So because we are producing more, we are selling to more people. So we are chopping down trees like crazy. Okay? If you're chopping down trees like crazy, global warming is happening. Or let's say you are fishing like crazy, the fishes are gone. So then what happens? This will violate this goal. It will also destroy the marine life. Okay? Very solemn. Questions for this part in terms of the impact? Okay, next one, the challenges of globalization. Challenges, we have a few. Again, if you have more things to add to this list, feel free to add on as well. Okay, so for example, first one, the regulations are very different, right? They have their own set of laws and regulations. And then all these different rights, rules, they are all very different. Okay, let's say if you look at the different political systems, right? Some countries, they are more, let's say, free play. Like in the US, right? In the US, we can have guns. We can carry guns. But in Singapore, we cannot. You know vaping or you vape also? Okay, yeah, no one vapes, right? So, yeah, so illegal in Singapore. So Singapore, vaping is not allowed. But if you go to other countries like Malaysia, it is legal. So you can openly just walk, then take a puff, then after that hit, right? We can still do that in Singapore. I still see that happening, right? Sometimes, yeah. Sorry.
What is
Vaping.
again?
Is it talking? I talk about vaping?
The other countries would be
Malaysia one should be
Michelle?
probably. Okay, let me just confirm. Okay.
What countries? What country illegal?
Singapore. Singapore cannot. Malaysia, yeah. Nicotine vape has been legal for 14 months. This was okay, yeah. So anyway, this one 2024, so probably it's still legal. Okay, but Singapore cannot. I think when you cross the customs, right, they'll put all the nice posters. So are you vaping? Are you carrying vapes? Right, you cannot. Okay, and then they fine you and so on. So the differences in the rules and regulations, right, can make it hard to or obstruction to globalization. So that's one. Cultural barriers, right? These will be differences in the language, customs, and so on. Now, if you notice, maybe now not so much, but earlier days, right? Let's say if you backtrack 10 years ago, when K-pop wasn't so popular, okay, it was quite, but let's say at the beginning, right, it wasn't so widespread to all over the world, okay? Which country would have received K-pop earlier? So which country would have been exposed to and really liked K-pop from the start? Now it's everyone, right? Now if you say BTS, probably everyone knows. But maybe 20 years ago, if I ask you about Korean K-pop, then you're like, huh? Right? 20 years ago, probably US, Westlife. I wasn't born yet, right? I'm just reading from book. Westlife. Then if you What else? If you okay, Chinese one, like let's say if you are following probably Hong Kong, Taiwan, right? This will be like because different people speak Chinese in different places, right? So let's say for K-pop, which country probably would have received it first? So based on the similarity in the culture, language probably as well, right? It will be Japan. Okay, so before we even like think about K-pop, right? It was already spreading to Japan because it's nearby, because the language could be similar, because the culture is very similar. So let's say now if you are thinking of going to Korea or Japan, right? Or let's say if you ask your friend, do you like Korea? Do you like Japan? Let's say, at least in my case, usually it's either one, right? Like for me, I really like Korea. So then I will go there, but I never go Japan. But I have a friend who's like a big fan of Japan. Then for her, it's like Korea is like, okay, right? Can go once in a lifetime. Okay, whereas for Japan, she has to make it a yearly trip. So the difference. Okay, so it's not like either one. But here in this case, because it is very close in terms of culture, so it goes over very quickly. Just like Singapore and Malaysia, very close by, right? You don't even need to fly. You can just take the bus over. So the culture is similar, the language is similar, the hot weather also similar, right? So the attire, the dressing, all that similar. So it makes it easier to spread over. But moment when the language, the customs, everything is different, it will impede on globalization. Right? Let's say now from the Asian context, we go over to the Western context. Let's say, for example, if we do something wrong in the Western context, right, in US, let's say I do something wrong, how would my supervisor let me know? Would he just tell me, hey, you suck? Or would he just like very kindly, nicely tell me? Or would he like give me a clue? Probably not, right? Probably, okay, generally, of course, there could be like different people. But across the board, let's say in terms of US, the Western culture, right, is more direct. Hey, you're good, right? Really good job. Hey, you suck, right? So bad. Please redo. Then you throw the file on the floor. Then you contrast with Japan. Japan as an Asian country, right? If the same thing happens, something wrong happens, would the boss come and say, hey, you, do they do that? Probably not, right? Probably not. Okay, agree. Okay, probably not. So they will just tell you indirectly. They may not even say it's bad. They will say, not too bad, right? But you can improve here, right? Or they say, oh, maybe you can think it through and then change it so you can make it better. Right? So they tell you very indirectly. Okay, let me find, this one has a video. Let me find if I can find, okay? This one.
I have spent the last 16 years studying how cultural differences are changing global organizations. But I have not always been working in a cross-cultural space. I was raised in a very monocultural place. I was raised in Minnesota, in the Midwest of the US. And it was only later as an adult that I started living in other countries and kind of learning about these things. But I had a situation early in my career that got this all started for me, where I was on a trip to Japan with a Japanese colleague, and I gave a short presentation to a group of Japanese participants. And at the end of the presentation, I asked them if they had any questions. When I looked at the group, no one raised their hands, so I went to sit down. My Japanese colleague then said to me, Erin, I think actually there were some questions. Do you mind if I try? And I said, okay, fine. So he then stood up, and again he said, any questions? And again, no one raised their hand. But this time he looked very carefully at the group. Oh, do you have a question? And the woman said, well, thank you, I do. And she asked a fascinating question. And then he did it again. Oh, do you have something you'd like to say? Yes, thank you, I do. So afterwards, I said to him, how did you know that these people had questions? And he said to me, well, it had to do with how bright their eyes. And I thought, wow, they don't teach us that in Minnesota. So then I said, but how do you know how bright their eyes are? And he said, well, in Japan, we don't make as much direct eye contact as you do in the West. So when you ask people if they have any questions, most people are not looking at you directly. But a few people in the audience are looking directly at you, and their eyes are bright. And that indicates that they would be comfortable with you calling on them. So the next day I gave another presentation, and again I asked if there were any questions, and again no one raised their hand. But this time I thought, okay, I'll just try. So I did as he'd instructed, and I looked carefully at the group, and I saw, just as he said, only a couple of people in the room were looking directly at me. And if I really thought about it, well, yes, okay, their eyes were bright. So, I gestured to one of them, and he kind of went like that. And then I said, would you like to say something? And he said, yes, thank you. So this was a very important experience for me because, well, there's an expression in Japanese, which is kuki yomenai. They shorten it to KY, and it means someone who is unable to read the atmosphere, or someone who is unable to read the air, meaning to pick up the communication that's in the air. And here we could see that he clearly could read the air, and I was clearly KY. But I also saw that with a little bit of assistance and direction, that I also could become better picking up those signals that were in the air. So then as I was thinking about this, I became very interested in trying to figure out if there was a method that we could use to help people to better read the atmosphere when they were working with cultures that they didn't know intimately. And we then started to develop this framework that came from lots and lots of research, where we divided culture up into different types of behaviors. And we started looking at, how is trust built in different parts of the world, and how do we make decisions differently in different parts of the world? And we saw that we were able to come up with patterns for how countries or cultures spell differently on those scales.
Okay, so good example. So the Japanese culture is more indirect, right? It's a bit more shy. So then they don't tell you directly, right? Even with questions, they don't just say, oh, I do, right? They are more like they look at you and then they are signaling you to call them. So the speaker sat down, then no questions were asked, right? Because no one had a chance. But in the case of US, they are more like, I have a question of, yes, I'll raise my hand, I'll say something, right? So the culture is different. So when it's different, it can create misunderstandings, it can create conflict even. So you may use this example here as well. All right, next one. Exchange rate fluctuations. Businesses engaged in international trade exposed to the exchange rate risks, which can affect the profitability. So going in certain directions is one thing, whether the currency appreciates or depreciates. Depreciate, that means the value goes down. Appreciate means the value goes up. So let's say in Singapore, one exchange rate pair that Singaporeans are often concerned with, they are very interested to know. Any guesses? Let's say you are a Singaporean, okay? You are in Singapore, right? There's always one exchange rate pair, that means SGD to something, that they are always very concerned with. The moment there's a larger fluctuation, you see people queuing up at the money changes. Any guesses? SGD, the Sing dollar, to something. Which other currency? Sorry? No, USD is still okay. Maybe you don't go there, maybe you don't buy so much. So still okay. Somewhere where you are free, and there are very many free people. If you just go to Kranji Station, Malaysia Ringgit. Okay. If you go to, this one, if you are free, Kranji Station, you look very tired, you deserve a good rest. So if you are free, you can go Malaysia, right? It's very cheap. Okay, if you are not familiar, go to Kranji Station, come down, you see when everyone is queuing up, just follow the queue, take the bus. Then it will drive you all the way to Malaysian checkpoint. Then you scan your passport, you will go Malaysia. Okay, so why everyone paying attention to the ringgit? Because it's easier to go there, right? If I hardly go US, if I hardly go China, Korea, then I wouldn't be so affected. But because this one can be very close by. Let's say right now, right? Let's say now 2 p.m. I want to go Malaysia. My friend likes to do that. He also teaches, yes.
First, people need to exchange money from Singapore Malaysian ringgit. After busing, what is this thing?
Custom?
Busing, where did Singapore Malaysian immigration Woodlands checkpoint?
Yeah, you can change that. You can change that. So either you change before or change after. Okay. So let's say now How convenient, right? My friend could finish teaching, he's also teaching. Sorry? $6, not so much in Singapore because we probably don't go so often. But Malaysian is very nearby, so we keep going. Okay, all right. So like my friend, he's also teaching now elsewhere. So he can finish teaching at 8 plus and he will text me, say, oh, I'm very tired. Right? I need that break. So I need a massage. But in Singapore, massages are more expensive, right? But if you just go to Malaysia, it's like half the price, 1/3 the price. So he can go in, then he will just do a 2-hour massage. He could finish at midnight. Then he say go for supper. Then he will almost get stuck in Malaysia. Because there's a cut-off point for bus, right? They don't operate 24 hours. So the last bus could be 1:30 a.m., for example. Then he's struggling to catch the bus. So then I'll laugh at him. Okay, yeah. But anyway, so you can go anytime. It's very convenient and it's nearby. So we would like to see the fluctuation of the currency. So previously, let's say we look at SGD to ringgit. Okay, if you are interested, huh? So, okay, this one. Okay, so it is 1 Sing dollar to 3.32. Of course, you go to the money changer now, it will be a bit different. It could be 3.3, it could be 3.31. Okay, this is considered a bit lower. That means the Sing dollar has depreciated, right? So you see the terms here, depreciation, the opposite is appreciation. Depreciation, that means your currency goes down in value. So Sing dollar has weakened against the ringgit recently. Because if you backtrack previously, let me see if I it's a chart. Yes, very sad. Yes. Okay. Okay, where is the chart? Very, very sad. It's a very, very sad thing. Okay, it used to be 3.5. This was start of the year, 3.56, 3.5 something, right? Going there is like so happy. That's why Singaporeans all queue up. Okay, then after that, I haven't been following, but I know that yes, the Sing dollar has started to depreciate. That means 1 Sing dollar can buy fewer units of Malaysian currency. So instead of buying 3.5 ringgit, it can only buy 3.33 ringgit, right? But it's still quite high. If you compare to like 5 years ago, right, you can see that previously it was about 2.99. Okay, still not too bad, right? 15 years ago, like around 2.5. So it's still on a generally upward trend. The change in the currency value is one thing, going up, going down is one thing. But when it's very volatile, that will make your business planning difficult. So like for example, today it is, let's say 3.33. Where is it now? Counted. Yeah, okay, so now it's 3.33. Then for example, tomorrow it becomes 5. Then next day it becomes 6. Then Saturday it drops to 1. So if it's always like this, when you come to Singapore and do a business with Malaysia, difficult, right? Because of the volatility. So the direction is one thing. It's not whether it's going up or down only. It is also about the fluctuation. So 3.32 to 3.33, okay, around then. 3.33, tomorrow 6. The day after 1. Then no one's going to do business here because it's very difficult, all right? Very, very uncertain. Okay, so exchange rate. Political risks, we talk about things like the global, like all these wars. We talk about things like your government instability. Any countries with wars right now, recently. So we can use that as an example. So it becomes very uncertain. Okay, I'll just type here, right? The example. Or you can talk about the Russia-Ukraine war. So if you are dealing with these companies or countries, then it can be a bit difficult because they are experiencing all this inner turmoil. Okay, then the last part, huh? So again, this is about challenges in case like a bit lost, too many stories. So last part is to do with the environmental concerns. So we say that sustainability becomes an issue. Okay, during COVID, there was an article that was published. It said that, I think it was San Francisco. San Francisco never had bluer skies. It was very clear, very nice, the birds flying, chirping, right? And that time coincided with the lockdown measures. So when you lock down, you cannot operate factories, you cannot produce, right? Everyone resting. The sky got very blue, very nice sky. Then suddenly when it come back, no more already, right? Heavy smoke. Let's see. Okay, I interrupt again. Let's see if there still is. Okay, air pollution, San Francisco. Now it's good, but okay, never mind. Find the article. San Francisco air pollution. This one cannot find. Never mind. So anyway, the story was this. All right. So you can have environmental issues, air pollution, chop down the trees, over mining, using too much resources. All that could lead to environmental problems. Okay. So just to sum up, these are the various challenges. So you could also bring your own points. If you have other things to mention, you can. Things like inflation. Inflation can also, we can have this situation of imported inflation here. All right. So in terms of economics, imported inflation would be that we buy resources from overseas that is more expensive, so you have to charge a higher price now. But if you understand it loosely, it could be that because the goods and services they are bought and sold across borders, then when one country faces higher prices. Okay, this one just off my mind as an extra point. All right, you can come up with your own points in the exam also. So let's say we buy oil, right? Let's say we buy oil. Then when we are facing the war in Ukraine and Russia, right, and they produce all this petroleum, it's going to be more expensive. And then it will come down and it will affect countries like even Singapore. Okay, so electricity prices also went up. So here, this will be an example of your imported inflation. If you know the numbers, it will be even better. During COVID, the inflation figures dropped because people were not spending. But after COVID, let's say around 2022, how was inflation like? Higher? Okay. Higher? Lower? After COVID, let's say 2 years ago, 2022. What was the direction of inflation? Or what was the inflation rate, the number? We went through, right? Yes. Okay, after COVID, because everyone celebrated, right? Finally, after 2 years, you can fly. Then every day we buy Prada, right? So rich. I didn't, you did. Okay. So because everything was now rebounding, the economy, people spend like crazy, inflation rate went all the way to 8%, 9%. Okay. You can search around. You can see for US inflation 2022. You see 8%. The benchmark is around 2 to 3%. So from the government's perspective or the central bank, 2 to 3 is okay. If you are 2 point something, almost 3, they already feel it's quite high. Now it's already 8%. And 8% when you get the data, it means that it has already happened for some time. You don't know it immediately, right? You collect the data after it has happened. That means after they realize the problem already existed for some time. So that's why the interest rate went all the way up, right? So that's one thing. So here with inflation in US also so high, Singapore's inflation also very high. Across the world, inflation rates all follow the same direction, all very high. Let's say Singapore. Okay, let's say Singapore. Now it's a bit better, not so high as before. Okay, no, but it's inflation. Okay, so it's about 2+% in July 2024. Finally, we are quite happy with it. It's not super, super low. It's not super, super high. Quite within the range. You don't need to do much. So this one for context. If you remember numbers, you can use it in the answers. All right. Okay, last two parts. So future of globalization, probably we feel things like digitalization. So it's going to be more digitalized across. And it's not just digitalization. Probably now we have things like AI or even have a BI, right? All these are shaping how we do things, how we communicate, how we do businesses. Then also sustainability is likely going to be a big thing. Okay. So it could be about protecting the environment. So it could be based on environment, how you protect environment, how you deal with global warming. It can also to do with the social side. So sustainability doesn't have to be on environment. It can also be on the social part. So social part would be like labor, child labor. It can be about the feminism, right? Gender equality, right? Gender equality. So all these topics will come up because people are raising more concerns. People are paying more attention to all these topics. Okay, all right. So this one here, there could be more points. You may need to discuss a bit, right, in the answers. So depending on what they ask you, this one, please don't skip, all right? But more importantly, the above, this has about 6 points. This one has about 6 points. This one also about 4 to 5 points. So we have a lot of points